working with Brett and John for a little while. Pleasure to see you all for the first time. Hi. Couple of things before we get started. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with what's going on. Potential for some severe weather moving to Saturday for Arklatex into Mississippi. Couple of technical issues before we get started. The particular programming we're using is completely mirroring everything that I do, and there's a little bit of a lag with my chroma key. So me reaching across the map, for example, is instead of intuitively being going towards the east, for me it's going towards the west. So it's kind of backwards. So if things seem a little strange, it takes me a little minute to get accustomed to it, then that's why.
It's mirroring is the problem. We couldn't turn it off.
Yeah, we can't get rid of the mirroring, but you know, we're going to work through it, and I'm sure you guys will figure out, you know, what's going on. So let's try to see if this will work. If I can step through.
Yep.
Try to get the next page. I think we're having a. There it goes. All right. This is our hemispheric. Now everything I did for the 12Z synoptic time. Rolling into 0Z, but you know, of course, had to prepare this ahead of time. So you see we have Rex blocking really on both coasts, and that's going to be partially what's responsible for helping to amplify a lot of our pattern in the middle of the United States. You see this large, off the East Coast, you see this large long wave trough. That's going to be our weather maker. Let's see if I can step through this thing. Our little clicker is delayed. All right, there we go. This is our 300 millibar pattern. It's the 500 millibar was the hemispheric. You see off our west coast have the long wave trough that's going to be moving into the country. Now the thing to note is that it has not came ashore yet. So a lot of these model differences we're seeing now are going to be associated predominantly with the fact that this has not been sampled by upper air rayobs. So our timing issues, our phasing issues, a lot of that are coming from the fact that this is one of those big southwest lows that's going to be coming on shore very, very quickly and very rapidly. And as you can see behind it, we have this large jet streak. That's going to help sharpen this trough and deepen it as it dies down behind our long wave trough. Step to the next page.
Just hold it down for a second.
Yep.
When you advance.
All right, this is our 500 millibar zoomed in from the same image we saw earlier. Again, we have Rex blocking out on both coasts. That's helping to dive this trough downwards. That's going to be impacting the west coast first, and that's going to be pushing our way. Of course, the PVA associated with this is going to be the predominant factor giving us our lift ahead of it. I'm sure you guys are familiar with those processes.
Don't have to hold it for a second. Or here.
Yeah, just step through for me, John. It's just a little bit lagged. Stepping downwards to 700 millibars, we see that we have significant moisture. It's not shaded, didn't have enough time, but there's not a whole lot to see on this particular map. It's just an analysis map, 700 millibars. One thing to note is we do not have the significant dry layers that we expect to see for very significant severe weather outbreaks that you guys may be familiar with in the plains or so on. But in the southeast, the SPC has done considerable research, and that shows that you really don't need those dry slots. I think it was 73% of F2 or higher tornadoes spawned from these type of events occurred with dew point depressions of less than 5 degrees Celsius. So we're talking about these very moist profiles being extremely conducive regardless of what you may have been used to. John, if you can step to the next page. Okay, this is our 850. I'll back up so you can see, guys. You may not be able to see it too well, but if you look, you might be able to see some areas you're familiar with. What we're starting to see is significant warm air advection through our area, and of course I'm sure you guys who are local have noticed it's starting to warm up. Dew points are coming up, and we're not going to be quite as cold as we have been lately. And so now we have our analysis done. I like to start off. We're going to move towards some more of our we'll look at a surface from 12Z, and then we'll look at the forecast. 12Z, you see that, go back one, John. 12Z, you see that we have a stationary front over the Central Plains. Associated with that, some of you guys have been talking earlier. I know Zach and a few others were mentioning they had some snow up north associated with this clipper that's moving off the east coast on this side. Again, everything's flipped, so you had to give me a minute when I reached the wrong way. I'm used to reaching across and being east, but it's not. I'm flipped. It's crazy. Anyway, go ahead and step through, John. It's not terribly relevant. So we're going to look through at our severe weather event. I'm going to skip through the intermediate time and go straight to what you guys want to talk about. This is the SPC forecast. You see we have a significant slight area stretching all the way towards Mississippi. Not really impacting Alabama too much. Of course, Brett may talk to you guys later about it a little bit. There's some significant disagreements between what SPC has been trying to illustrate and what you actually see on these maps. Now, this is probably the most important map you're going to see today. This is a hand contoured map. I did it myself. You see the warm front extending. Of course, this is plus 54 hours from your 12Z synoptic time. So we're getting to be a little less than 2 days from now. Most important thing you're going to see here is this prefrontal trough. I'm sure you guys have been talking about it, been hearing about it, but there it is. You see these small kinks in these isobars. This is very, very important because the shear vector is going to be acting against that trough instead of being parallel to it. Go ahead, John. SKUT, wow, that looks really weird reverse. I'm sorry. SKUT, you see that down here we have very significant warm temperatures at the surface, and our temperature profiles, people have been complaining about it, but you see that we don't have very strong dew point depressions. We're talking about very moist profiles here. Most important thing to look at this map in particular are our wind barbs. You see around 850 millibars we have a significant jet max, low-level jet. That's going to be pumping in some serious warm air advection in the mid-levels. That's helping to moisten the profile up all the way through the column, as we have southerly component to every single one of our winds. Not bad, not great, but this is about typical for a southeast severe weather event. And now you see our hodograph. Very large anticyclonic curve hodos here. Very conducive for rotating storms, very conducive for supercells, very conducive for tornadic activity. You're not going to get much better than that. It's fantastic. And one thing I want to point out is that I picked very conservative HODO, very conservative SKUT for what's out there. This is from a 12Z GFS. There are scarier ones. This is a conservative version. This is maybe more likely what we're going to see. But, you know, to note, it could be worse, and the model is projecting worse in certain areas. But this is fairly representative of the southeast section of Arkansas and the north half of Mississippi. This is our cape. See, we have anything green here, according to SPC research done on southeast and Gulf Coast significant storms, F2 or higher. Anything green here is supportive of violent tornadoes. I know you guys are thinking, well, it's only 1,000 or so. But that's pretty doggone high for this time of year. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that. Anything in these dark blues, they account for approximately the remainder of of course, we had 73% in the green. The remaining 20-something% there is going to be in these dark blues. So those are still areas of concern.
He says green, but I'd like to point out he's referring to a green screen, so the whole damn thing is green.
All right, this is one of my favorite charts. You guys may not have seen this one. Again, this is a conservative view. So there are, if you go 3 hours before this or 3 hours after, it actually looks worse. Anything in a dark orange here is going to be 250 or higher meter squared per second squared storm relative helicity. Now, it's important to remember that storm relative helicity is a little bit harder to predict than actual helicity, but it's actually what drives it's what the storm feels. If we get the storm motion a little bit incorrect, or we get the storm base level incorrect, with your lifted condensation level, if that's off at all, this is going to be a little bit different. But this is better than standard helicity. What's important to note is that you see these contours. Now those are supercell composite contours, and anything over 1 is supportive of supercells. And you see we have a large area of 1 stretching all over the southeast essentially, and we have probably a state of 2s. And in the center, we're actually seeing 4s. So this is very significant supercell composite. So, you know, it's all looking good for severe weather here. So where are we looking at for our target area? If I had to recommend a spot for you, this would probably be it, guys. You're looking at eastern Louisiana and northern half and the middle part of Mississippi for your start point. Now all this is going to be progressing to the east, obviously, and northeast. If you start, say, in West Mississippi, you may end up near the Shoals region chasing things. I cut off our target area to the eastward extent because we're going to be getting nightfall by here. Now this area over here, a little bit further, is actually going to have some severe threat, but it's going to become a nightfall, so it's not really the area you're going to want to look at. All right, that's about all I have. Maybe it was informative, maybe not. If you guys have any questions, feel free to turn the mics back on and we can talk about it.
Logan.
What's up?
Last couple of days. Does it, in your eyes, look like the timing might be just a little bit with these latest runs, because what I'm seeing is, and have seen, is that we might see some initiation along that prefrontal trough, 1920Z time frame in East Louisiana along the Mississippi River Delta.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking about, you're going to want to be in position probably mid-morning on Saturday if you're going to want to get ahead of these things. It's, we had been thinking that we're going to be looking mostly at Saturday night, but if this prefrontal trough does verify, and one important thing to remember is that our 500 millibar trough, our 300 millibar trough hasn't been sampled yet, so the timing is still going to be up in the air probably until 12 to 24 hours out even. This trough may or may not even verify. It's very hard to pick these things out. It could line up with the cold front, which is more typical even. Yes, I think the time, if we start seeing nowcasting and we start seeing the trough is starting to verify, then we're going to be looking at mid-morning to, the overnight hours on Saturday, as opposed to starting in the afternoon.
Okay, and one more fact. With that prefrontal trough axis, I know a lot of people are used to seeing those things oriented more north to south, content.
Mm-hmm.
But with our warm front so far to the north, I guess this might actually be on the leading edge of the 70-degree dew point moisture surge. And the biggest thing is, once these cells develop, if you get the isolated cells in nature, and everybody wants to keep this in mind, if you see a supercell with such a southwest deep layer flow pattern start to take a right turn, you can just about be guaranteed that it's dropping a significant tornado or is about to.
That's important to note. I mean, it's actually, when you have your warm front so far north and you have a significant gradient of moisture, your theta E's are going to start to show up as a secondary warm front almost, like you were talking about, and that's going to help drive this trough. It's still too early to know if it's going to verify or not. It's a lot easier to forecast temperature than moisture, unfortunately.
Well, another recommendation. I know a lot of the guys that are out chasing. If you have joined the group me chat that I have posted about in the live storms media room, that's a good thing. If you haven't, you probably want to join that, because I'm going to be doing a lot of mesoscale forecasting while Brandon drives toward Vicksburg. Between Vicksburg and Greenville, Mississippi is where we look to set up.
Yep, good spot.
And, I think that's going to be the best area for initiation, because, like we talked about, these things are going to haul, and you want to be out in front of them. You don't want to be right on them at initiation. Otherwise, if you get behind them, you're done.
Yeah, like I said, you're going to want to get there kind of early.
Yeah, exactly. And, I think this is going to be especially for you guys that are used to chasing in the plains and chasing up further north into Illinois, Indiana, that region.
Different monster.
These things are going to haul, and the potential for loss of property, loss of life, and even yourself being at risk is going to be very high. So we're going to have to be very careful with this situation.
Yeah, definitely.
Welcome to Dixie Alice, I would say.
Yeah, that's the truth. I mean, if you guys are familiar with cool season events, this is pretty much your classic cool season event. It's got all the markings. If you go through, I posted a link to a few guys yesterday about SPC research on cool season events, and if you haven't got that, I'll be happy to share it with you. But this has pretty much all the markings of your classic cool season event. So, if you're familiar with those, this, high shear, low instability, this is what we're looking at.
Yeah, that's a key point. And I also want to let you guys know, I've been, like I said, I've been chatting with Logan about this back and forth. Some of the local forecast offices are in significant disagreement with the SPC at the moment, because they believe that the SPC is being too conservative with its forecast. Number one, in terms of the area that they have forecast, and number two, the potential severity. And, we're kind of in agreement, and I fully expect to see a moderate risk for tornadoes at least.
That's a good guess.
If we get more instability and diurnal heating, I know Jackson's forecasting 78 degrees for Yazoo City. If that were to verify, I wouldn't even put it past it to potentially some type of a high-risk issue later on in the day, Saturday. Supercells do start becoming the predominant storm mode. But other than that, now that Logan's got his presentation out of the way, I'm going to throw it over to Zach and let him hit the unmute button, since he's our master's guy, and we'll let him see what he has to say about the situation.
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're good.